Critics say the frequent demonstrations in the capital, Accra, have become a security threat to the nation and must be curbed to bring sanity. But the Alliance for Accountable Governance, AFAC, says government has been reckless with the economy and the nation is moving dangerously in the wrong direction. That, they say, is the security threat. So, is our democracy threatened by the frequent demonstrations, or are things rather getting worse? What results have these demonstrations produced? This is today's big story with me, Stephen Enti. Now, pro-opposition pressure group Alliance for Accountable Governance, AFAC, today hit the streets of Accra in another Agbewo demonstration, which literally means they're killing us. The group says the demonstrations are against the high level of corruption and economic hardship in the country. We'll be trying to get to AFAC to tell us exactly what they mean. But security experts and governance expert David Agbe is of the view that these demonstrations are becoming too much and are now turning to be a security threat for the nation. David joins us now. Good evening, David, and thanks for your time.
Yes, thank you so much, Steve.
My key question is that in a democratic space, isn't dissent perfectly fine?
Yes, it is so that in a democratic era, people could air their views, people could demonstrate, people could express their sentiments, and all kinds of things. But however, it needs to be well measured. And it needs to be followed by a certain methodology or a certain procedure that the nation will not be subjected to, let me use the word, a threat. And if we look at what is happening in the country, the numerous demonstrations which are, taking place all over the country, is not good, and it poses a security threat to the country. And if you looked at all the issues that they are being, discussed around, I should say that it is not quite different from what has also happened in different countries. I will take you to what happened in Arab states, which we call the Arab Spring. When it happened, it also went to United States. The Arab Spring took place in 2010, 17th of December, and then it went to United States in 2011, where in United States they call it Wall Street Spring, which they also debated on it, and later on it came to the Asian countries, and Nigeria 2012. You remember when President Lord Jonathan declared or announced that he's going to cancel the oil subsidy or fuel subsidy. People call it Occupy Nigeria. And recently to Ghana too, we also had that experience that people call it Occupy Ghana and all that. So it is flying across, all over. And so all these demonstrations are giving us a certain signal that Ghana is more like sitting on what we will call a keg of gunpowder, where if care is not taken, it could explode into a certain negative way. Because we need to be careful about whatever is going on in the country, and we need to alert government and security agencies that they need to sit very well and to be able to measure all these kind of strike and demonstrations going on in the country. It poses a threat to the country. And the issues that they are talking about, political corruption, our social values which are not working, and our laws are not being respected all over. We need to take a critical look at it. We need to be, watchful so that this kind of, demonstrations and strikes do not degenerate this country into any kind of chaotic situation.
David, I'll have you hold briefly. Dr. Kofi Opoku-Addo is a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana. He's also joining us now. Now, Dr. Addo, the question I want to put to you, same as I put to David Agbe, is, are these demonstrations unnecessary?
Well, the fact that, let me say said that I'm Kojo Opoku, not Kofi.
Kojo Opoku. Thanks for the correction, sir. Yeah.
Well, I think whether it's necessary or not will depend on the issues that are driving the protests. And my understanding of this demonstration is that they are protesting against corruption and also against mismanagement of the economy. If that is so, then they have genuine concerns, to protest. And one cannot say that it's not necessary because it's something that as citizens, as taxpayers, they feel so strongly about, and our constitution allows that people at some point may manifest their discontent or whatever. So I wouldn't say it's unnecessary.
I mean, if the thing is that they're raising questions about corruption, and then they also say that the country is, well, the government is misplacing their priorities and leading the country to a dangerous place, something of the sort. I mean, these things are not based on any substantive fact. It is not like they're coming to the public with concrete evidence of any sort for which they're demonstrating. So you feel that it's still okay to go ahead with such vague rhetorics and demonstrate?
Well, I don't think, because in the last few months or so, we've heard a number of corrupt cases. The Subas and the National Service Secretariat, where thousands and thousands of names were on the pay list, and monies were paid from the public purse to people who did not even exist, and so on and so forth. So we've had, some evidence of, corruption in this country, and already, as I expect the economy is not as sound as we all want it to be. And so I think they have every reason, to demonstrate,
Right.
And so I don't think it's unnecessary at all.
And would you still agree with David, who says that these demonstrations are turning out to be like security threats?
Well, he's a security expert, so he might have the information. But what I do know is that, you see, in such protests, two things are likely to happen. It either gains momentum, in which case it leads to something unexpected, or it takes a long time and it becomes something of a build-up,
right,
and so on. And it's up to the government to address these general concerns. My own understanding is that many Ghanaians, including people even within the NDC, are concerned about the increasing state of corruption in this country. And therefore, the people who are demonstrating could be said to have the support of the country, even if some people think that demonstration is not the way to go. And so it's up to the government to sit down and address these things, because one way or the other, it will have to be resolved. If the corruption cases continue and the situation continues to deteriorate, a time may come when such protests will gain momentum, as we saw recently in Burkina. And so the potential to become risky in activity problem is there. I don't have the evidence anyway.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Kojo Opoku Ado is a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana. We'll still have David Agbe online. David, Dr. Ado raised the issue of Burkina Faso as an example. Let's do some comparison with what happened there and what is happening here. Do you think that these demonstrations in Ghana could become a tool for destabilizing the country in any way?
I think it could happen. Because if you looked at the example that I gave, the Arab Spring, when it started, we thought that it could just, maintain itself in that, region. But it has resurfaced in all the other countries. And so that has brought this issue of, Burkina Faso issue. Gone are the days people wouldn't have such a courage to demonstrate in Burkina Faso as it happened. And so it is turning around most of the African countries. I made mention of Nigeria in 2012, where they declared that occupy Nigeria. And Ghana also imitated the same idea, said that occupy Ghana. So it is sending a certain signal that we are learning from what has happened in other jurisdictions. And so we will want to copy those characteristics. And so we need to be careful, all these demonstrations need to be well measured, and we need to follow the demonstration clearly.
Right.
The key issues that they raise: economic decline, unemployment, extreme poverty, and political corruption. Not political corruption alone. You realize that our society is being infected with what I would call luciferic, spirit, which is haunting the country. And so, Steve, we need to be careful that the incident that happened in Tunisia, Bahrain, Egypt, Libya, Yemen, and currently in Burkina Faso, we need to be able to follow it very well so that our security people will be very much alert. But our government officials will be able to monitor all those signals and will be able to handle situations.
But David, when you say the demonstrations should be well measured, what exactly do you mean? Measured in the sense that the people are not able to measure the levels of difficulties they are going through. I mean, people go through a lot of difficulty lately. With economic situation is not very good. I mean, the Bank of Ghana policy rate went up today. And so if you look at what people are going through, how then do you say that demonstrations against hardships of this nature should be measured? What do you mean measured?
What I said that it needs to be measured is said that government officials and the president or the ministers need to be aware of these kind of signals going on in the country.
Right.
And so they need to find an antidote to all these issues, that economic decline, unemployment. Look at the youth of this country. Many people have genuine qualifications, have tons of certificates, but they do not have access to jobs. And so when the youth tend to jump onto, following this kind of demonstration, it could cause a chaos in the country. And, look at the issue that you made mention, that the policy rate has gone up from 19 to 21% as we speak. So the borrowing power, people wouldn't have access to money. And so we have all these kind of, dissatisfactions going on in the country. And so if government will not take concrete measures to be able to find an antidote to all these kind of situations going on, then Steve, we might be sitting on what I will call a keg of gunpowder, where certain situations, it will get to a point that certain situations will not be able to be handled by the state apparatus. So we need to be very careful. Government needs to pay attention to all these kind of issues, that people are raising, and so that we'll be able to find an antidote to some of these things. If people are suffering economically, government needs to pay attention to it. It is the responsibility of government to put in measures that will be able to resolve some of these kind of issues. When people are talking about, roads, infrastructure here and there, you realize that kids and people are demonstrating around the country that their road network are not good, their school infrastructures are not good, and so many other factors. So government needs to be able to pay attention to all these kind of things and be able to factor in measures that will be able to curtail some of these issues. If not, then we might be, treading, on a certain negative way, which will not be able to stabilize this country.
Right, David, we're waiting to get AFAC representatives in the studio to continue the discussion. But let me ask you: do you share the view of those who think that these demonstrations haven't yielded any results?
I do not share those, views that it has not yielded any result. As a security analyst, I would say that any demonstration, people need to be able to pay attention to it, whether it is a one-man demonstration like it happened in Tunisia, Mohamed Bouaziz and other group of people. It could take one person to demonstrate, and government needs to be able to pay attention to those group of people. And so we don't need to put it under a certain carpet that it does not have any value. Let's pay attention. And that is what, in democracy, we say that everybody has a voice, and we shouldn't be able to, shut somebody of, communicating his frustrations or his views. So government needs to be able to pay attention to every ugly voice that people will be able to raise, and be able to do an analysis whether it is coming from a genuine point of view or it is being orchestrated orchestrated by a certain group of people. And so government needs to be able to pay attention to some of these issues. It shouldn't be said that they are just shelving the issue, that this matter has been raised by opposition, and so we are not going to pay attention and all that. It is not a good signal. When you are in democracy, you need to be able to appreciate every voice, and every vote counts, and every voice must also be counted.
Right.
As being paying a certain, what I would say that it is following a certain democratic, credential that everybody must, be accountable as far as we are in the democratic, regime, and every voice needs to be appreciated wherever it is coming from.
Right. These demonstrations have come in different shades. There have been the AFAC demonstration in Takrady, which is themed Wonchendi, and then there being the one in Volta region themed Mioku, and then there is the Agbewo. I mean, have we not had enough of these things?
And that is why it is so significant that government need to be able to listen to all these kinds of demonstrations. If it has happened in Western region, it has happened in Volta region, it has happened in Greater Accra, as you made mention, Ashanti region, and other, regional capitals, then government needs to be able to pay attention to those group of people. Look at, the 12 labor, unions that, demonstrated recently and even went into strike. And so students were not having access to their lectures and all those things. Looked at the polytechnic lectures, over 100 days they were sitting at home, and all those people, hospitals, doctors and teachers, all of them, going on strike, or excuse me to say, at times you could say that some of them are not necessary, but is government paying attention to those group of people? Are they trying to be able to calm nerves down? Are they, paying attention to those people and finding a certain antidote to their cries and all that? So I must say that government needs to be able to do more, to be able to convince Ghanaians that they mean business and they are in to rule this country to the benefit of every, human being in this country. If government does not pay attention, then he has no business of, governing this country, because he needs to be able to, pay attention to Ghanaians.
Right.
What are Ghanaians saying? Are Ghanaians crying genuinely, or it is just being, hypocritical, cries here and there? So I think that government need to, be able to pay attention to the cry of the people. That is why many people came to vote for the government. And so government needs to be able to adapt that strategy of being able to solve, the problems of Ghanaians. And that will ensure that, yes, the government is being respected by people. Look at the youth now in the country. Many of them are so much disappointed.
Right.
They thought that the president is an engine. The president is coming from that youthful background, and so you'll be able to give them better jobs and other services.
Let me hold you briefly. I mean, I've held you on for a while. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, who's MP for Nantong and Deputy Minister of Trade, is joining us. Murtala Mohammed, we're grateful that you could join us. Now, there being the concern that a lot of these demonstrations have had undertones of political opposition elements fueling them. I mean, one statement has been attributed to an MPP campaign strategist who said that there is no demonstration or riot or protest in this country that have not had an influence from the minority in parliament. I need a quick reaction from you over what is happening. I mean, these demonstrations and the fact that security experts are saying that they are becoming a security threat to the nation.
Well, Steve, good evening to your cherished viewers and listeners. It's not an undertone. It is obvious and it is very clear to everybody that these demonstrations are engineered and masterminded by the MPP, and they confirmed it. In fact, the statements that were made by Honorable Nichul and Honorable Danbuchi after Ochiridaku, who indeed took the role of Honorable Danbuchi and whipped the minority, online. He said that, look, there isn't any demonstration in this country that they do not have contribution into it. And it's amazing that they occupy the Flagstaff House, led by my good friend, Franklin Kujo and co. The demonstrations that indeed were staged by labor unions, demonstrations staged by students of this country, demonstrations staged by AFAC, that I am amazed that in all these demonstrations, by the statements that are made by leadership of the minority, that they had hands in it, and in fact, engineered those demonstrations. The Constitution, I guess Article 21, Clause 1D, gives everybody the right to use demonstration as one of the means through which they can channel their grievances. And I have no problem at all, with anybody who indeed wants to embark on a legitimate demonstration. But the question then is, you demonstrate to draw the attention of government to a problem that you think is not given the.
But Murtala Mohammed, that's the point. I mean, they've been demonstrating to seek government's attention, but it doesn't look like anything has changed since all these demonstrations.
Steve, if you could allow me to land, you demonstrate to draw the attention of government or exert pressure on government to do what you think government is not doing. But most of the things they demonstrate and most of the reasons they give justifying the demonstrations, they are things that government is attending to.
Can you give me an example?
Economic challenges facing in the country, and in solving it is not an event, the process. And government indeed put in mechanisms. Your station indeed has enumerated some of the positions and mechanisms government is putting in place to address the challenges that we face. They demonstrated, remember, on the issue of the cedi is losing its value. And it was everywhere. Now that the cedi is gaining value against the other foreign currency, will they rewind the demonstration? Yet they demonstrate and use it as a basis. How do you even quantify economic challenges when you look at some of the aspects of the economy in which government is taking serious attention and is being addressed? Is it not obvious to everybody? Is it not obvious to everybody?
But Murtala, this posturing
in terms of the economic challenges.
Murtala, this posturing could be seen by these elements who are demonstrating as you or maybe your government trying to make it look petty that they are on demonstration. But the issues that they are bringing are real.
Steve, I indicated that we don't have any problem with anybody who engages or embarks on a legitimate demonstration. And in fact, the 1992 Constitution gives people the right to use demonstration as one of the means through which they can address concerns. But the simple question I ask is, when we demonstrate to draw the attention of government on an issue that is being addressed, on an issue government is looking at, one of the reasons they claimed that, look, that NHIS is collapsed, when you know, and everybody know, and they know in the hearts of their hearts that it is not collapsed. When you demonstrate to talk about the fact that there is corruption, and in fact, when you have that government who is saying that I will not shield corruption, anytime at all there is an allegation of corruption against any public officer or government appointee, I would ensure that investigations are conducted into it and the appropriate actions or sanctions are taken. Yet the same MPP and AFAC, which indeed is an offshoot of MPP anyway, we live under a government in this country who made a public pronouncement that I will not prosecute alleged corruption in my government. If I do so, I risk collapsing my government. And what it means is that there were a lot of issues that they shielded. They never wanted the good people of this country to know. You have President Mahama who says that I wouldn't shield it. Anytime I thought there is an allegation, I would ensure that investigations are conducted and appropriate actions are taken. On the issue of GIDA, the case is in court, except that they expect President Mahama to just go and start jailing people. On the issue of SADA, there was an investigation and the case is in court. Tell me one single issue, allegation that they have leveled that government has not indeed dealt with and continue to deal with. And I think that we must understand, but it's important.
Murtala, I'm happy.
Some of the so-called leaders...
Murtala, I'm happy that you have enumerated these issues that they've demonstrated about. Are you going to give me some form of official response to this very one, the Agbewo demonstration, literally meaning that they're killing us? Is that... are you going to give me a response to this demonstration?
The saddest aspect of this demonstration is that I wish your reporter from Parliament would have told you that we had empty seats at the minority side, simply because Ochiridaku hit them online. And I'm told that the demonstration, they were falling on each other to be captured on TV so that their party will say they are doing something. Why would you sit down as minority, a responsible opposition in Parliament, that it takes someone who is a nephew to your flag bearer and who doesn't hold any position as far as the MPP leadership and the leadership of Parliament is concerned, which be online? I am not surprised. The same State of the Nation's address, it took the National Secretary at that time who came out and said boycott, and they did. I thought that even though they belong to political parties, but they would have taken into consideration the larger interests of the people of this country for not boycotting Parliament. And that is the saddest aspect of the demonstration.
Right, Murtala Mohammed,
if they think that can win them power, they will lose again in 2016.
Right, Murtala Mohammed, we're grateful for your time on today's Big Story. We've been trying to get Dan Boche to also react to some of the issues that were raised, but we didn't get him. And then Abu Ramadan, who agreed to join us in the studio, who is a convener of AFAG, also couldn't make it because he lost his voice during the demonstration. So we had to make do with the gentleman who joined us today. My name is Stephen NC, and thanks to you for staying with us on today's Big Story. We'll be right back with the interactive segment. Do stay.